Much like their 28-year marriage itself, the McBee Dynasty, real American cowboys exes Kristi McBee and Stephen McBee Sr.'s divorce turned into a battle at the very end. In the above preview for the McBee Dynasty Season 2, Episode 9, airing on August 25, Kristi helps son Jesse McBee check off his pre-wedding to-do list before he and high school sweetheart Ali Ventresca walk down the aisle. The mother-son duo's visit to a local catering and event center is an easy task to complete, though compared to what else is on Jesse's mind, he still hasn't asked Ali to sign a prenup. In the midst of Kristi and Jesse's discussion on the topic, more on that below, a producer asks the McBee matriarch if she and Steve Sr. had a prenup, to which she emphatically replies in a confessional, no, he fought to keep everything. That intel could account for the fact Kristi's motherly instinct told her that Jesse hadn't concocted the prenup idea on his own. That's just not Jesse. I know who is behind that, she explains to a producer, referencing her ex-husband. Steve's always said, women are gonna take everything. That's all women want. Kristi McBee weighs in on Jesse McBee and Ali Ventresca's potential prenup. With his and Ali's wedding just about a week away, Jesse admits in the sneak peek that he is still feeling a little nervous in the wake of a recent anxiety attack. Before navigating another difficult conversation with his fiancée, though, he wants to get his mom's opinion. Obviously, I love Ali and I don't think anything will ever happen, he begins. But if it does, what do you think about, a prenup? Without hesitation, a totally shocked Kristi responds, I'm not for it. We've known Ali and her family forever. Shortly afterward, she continues, so, I guess it's not something I think is necessary. I think it would devastate her. She's been with you through everything. It's your decision. I don't care if it's your brother's, and I definitely don't care if it's your dad. Why the McBee men wanted Ali Ventresca to sign a prenup. In a confessional elsewhere in the Episode 9 First Look, Jesse reveals that big brother Stephen McBee Jr. is still on his case about getting Ali to sign the prenup. I do own 25% of the farm, and so if something were to happen to Ali and we were to get in a divorce, Stephen's worried that we would lose 12.5% of the farm, he explains. It's a tough decision, especially being this close to the wedding. The McBee brothers had already given a similar explanation when the topic arose during the family's ill-fated Ozarks getaway in Episode 5. At the time, Stephen Jr. noted that Ali's percentage of the farm and car washes in a potential divorce would be like a $50 million payout. Cole McBee, meanwhile, insisted that Jesse had no choice in the matter, unless he wanted to remove his name from the family businesses. Jesse McBee sheds new light on prenup conversation with Ali Ventresca. Though you'll have to tune in to find out whose advice Jesse eventually followed, he previously teased his prenup decision in an exclusive interview with The Briefing on Bravo. I wish me and Ali would have had that conversation a little sooner, and obviously, filming a reality television show while talking about it is just not easy to do, Jesse explained. We were so busy that we'd have a quick conversation about it and then not talk about it for a few weeks. With their October 2024 wedding day behind them, he now also has the added benefit of hindsight. Now that we're kind of out of it and I can look at it from an outsider's perspective, I always thought that it was a good idea, he elaborated. If you and your partner love each other and understand that, even if something were to happen, I wouldn't want to take anything that you've worked for, and she wouldn't want to take anything I worked for. As you wait to find out what happens next, don't miss what else Kristi spilled about the lead-up to her and Steve Sr.'s divorce. The scent of crushed grapes hung in the autumn air, a fragrant promise of the year's labor. For Elias, it was the smell of home, of generations of his family's blood, sweat, and soil. The sprawling vineyard, evergreen, was more than just a business. It was a living, breathing testament to the Miller legacy. It was the backdrop for his entire life, including his love story with Lena. He proposed to her right here, under the arbor, surrounded by ripening fruit. Now, with their wedding just a week away, that same sweet air felt thick with a different kind of tension. One that had nothing to do with the harvest and everything to do with a piece of paper. His father, Arthur Miller, was a man carved from the same granite as the old cellar walls, hard, unyielding, and scared by a past that had nothing to do with wine. Arthur's first wife, Elias's birth mother, had left him in a storm of acrimony and legal battles, taking half of everything she could. This bitter experience had soured his father's view of marriage, twisting it into a transactional arrangement. "Never let sentiment cloud your judgment, son," he'd rumbled just last night. "It's not about love, it's about protection. Protect the land, protect the name." And so the ultimatum had been delivered. Elias had to ask Lena to sign a prenuptial agreement. The word itself felt like a poisoned dart aimed at the heart of their relationship. Elias and Lena had been inseparable since high school. She'd stood by him through the long, grueling harvests, the early mornings, and the late nights. She understood the land and the legacy, not as a commodity, but as a part of the man she loved. The thought of presenting her with a document that suggested a potential end to their union before it had even begun made his stomach clench. He knew it would crush her, a silent accusation that he, too, believed their love was fallible. "I just don't understand," his mother, Eleanor, had said, her voice soft but firm as she tended to her rose bushes. She was Arthur's second wife, a quiet, gentle woman who had healed some of his wounds, but could never fully erase them. "Your father's pain from his last marriage is not your burden to carry. Your love with Lena is different. It's built on trust, not on a fear of what might be." But his brothers, older and more pragmatic, sided with their father. "It's not about Lena, Elias," his brother Thomas had explained, gesturing to the rows of vines stretching to the horizon. "It's about the vineyard. Our share. If something happens, you could lose a quarter of the farm. We can't risk that for a promise." Their logic, cold and mathematical, was a stark contrast to the warmth of his memories with Lena. He remembered her laughing as she helped him prune the vines, her hands caked with dirt. He recalled the way her eyes lit up when they toasted their engagement with a glass of their new-released Chardonnay. This was a partnership born of shared dreams, not financial stakes. The farm was a part of him, but so was she. To separate one from the other felt like amputating a limb. He walked through the vineyard alone, the setting sun painting the leaves in shades of gold and crimson. He felt the weight of his family's history on his shoulders, the pressure to protect a legacy he had not yet truly earned. Was he a coward if he didn't fight for what he knew was right? Was he a fool to risk everything for a belief in unconditional love? He found Lena in the garden, watering the lavender. She looked up, her smile a beacon of peace in his internal storm. He knew he couldn't hide this from her any longer. He took a deep breath, and the words, once so terrifying, tumbled out. He explained the situation, not as an ultimatum, but as a confession of his family's anxieties. He spoke of his father's past, his brother's fears, and the heavy burden of the Miller name. He didn't have the courage to ask her to sign anything. He simply laid the issue bare, leaving his fate in her hands. He watched her face as she processed it all, the surprise, the quiet hurt, and finally, a deep, thoughtful calm. When she spoke, her voice was as gentle as the evening breeze. "My love," she said, taking his hand, "your family's pain is their own. Our story is not theirs. I'm not marrying you for this farm, for the wine, or for the Miller name. I'm marrying you for you, and if you trust me to be your partner in life, in all things, then no document in the world can make us stronger. We don't need a contract. We have a covenant." Her words were a revelation, a clear and resonant truth that cut through the fog of his anxiety. She wasn't angry, she wasn't devastated. She was simply and profoundly disappointed in the very idea of it. It was then that Elias realized what he had to do. His duty was not to a piece of paper, but to the trust that was the true foundation of their future. He went to his father's study the next morning, the air in the room thick with the scent of old leather and a lifetime of hard decisions. "I won't do it," Elias said, his voice steady. "I won't ask her to sign a prenup. I won't start my marriage with a contingency plan. Our bond is stronger than any legal document." His father's face was a mask of stone. He started to protest, to lecture him on sentimentality and risk, but Elias held up a hand. "She trusts me completely, and I trust her completely. That's a value far greater than any financial asset. I am not you, father. My marriage will not begin in fear." Arthur said nothing for a long moment, the silence stretching between them. Then, slowly, a flicker of something new crossed his face, not approval, but perhaps a grudging respect. "You've made your choice," he finally said, the words heavy with a reluctant finality.